Hello. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Andrew, your host for the trainer today as a trainer. So we're going to be doing a couple of things. We're going to start exactly at 11 o'clock. So we're actually expecting 99 participants. So as of now, we're actually seeing about 18. So just quickly testing the audio. For those of you who have the ability to hear me, if you could just kind of wave virtually, or if you could just say hi, at least we can get the audio tested. Okay, so welcome. It's 11 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. I'm Andrew. So what we're going to be doing today is that it's a webinar, very short, very compact, maybe about half an hour to 45 minutes and a little bit of time for questions if you guys have any. So what I'll do is that we'll just introduce myself a little bit and then just go down later on. We see how the response is coming from all of you, particularly on your exposures. So I'll start with myself. I'm Andrew. I've been training for about 30 years now. Coming this October, it's going to be 30 years. So I do quite a bit of both training and consulting, one of which I suppose was able to help my clients to become the productivity champion. So that's just a little bit about myself. What I would like to do is that also to go through, maybe to get to know you a little bit more. So if all of you are ready, so what I'll be doing is that to see how you kind of maybe give a response. How many of you have been trained on this topic about team managing? If you have been trained on that, could you please type 1 in the chat box, please? So type 1 in the chat box if you have been trained on this topic before. And so love to see some of your responses. So again, I'll just repeat the question. If you have been trained on this particular topic before, please type 1. And so that's the first question. And the second question is that how many of you are already a team leader or a team manager? If you are a team leader or team manager, please type 2. If you have been trained on this topic before, please type 1. And you have both, you can type 1 and 2 together. So, all right, let's get going. So thank you for the response, Joanny, Mankesh, thank you. Kiet Xiong, we appreciate your response. So you guys are the leaders for team members and so on. So, yep. Keep the response coming, ladies and gentlemen. So we're just asking questions so that we can get to a little bit of a warm up to and get to know you a little bit more as well. So for those of you who have been trained on this topic related to team management, please type 1. And if you are already a leader or a manager managing a team, please type 2, like some of our friends here. So thank you, Giovanna, Tom, and Kiet and so on. Okay, so cool, and appreciate your response. What we're going to be doing, so we're going to shift a little bit, so get to know you a little bit more. And today, our purpose, there are mainly 2 points. The first is to share with you some of the tools on how to manage team, whether face-to-face or virtually. That's the first thing, a couple of tools to share with you how do we manage that. The second main point about today is to show you, it's a preview, to share with you how we may be running the program, so you can sense the methodology, the approach that we're going to be taking. So what sort of activities that we do when we run webinars, programs, and so on. So those are the 2 main reasons. And so let's get going. So our first one is this. Just going to show you this. And could you kindly key in this? You can click that in the chat box. I've actually copied and pasted this link in the chat box. So if you could go to that, that'd be great. It's going to be a short quiz, having some fun doing that. And I will start this quiz in a very short while. Okay, so if you could do that, I'll just click on this and I'll share with you the pin or code 462643. 462643. So if you could kindly click on the link, which I've copied and pasted in the chat box, and then use your device to go into that, and your device would prompt you for a join code, which is 462643. So we have a few now. Thank you, AT. Thank you, 𝗟𝗂𝗯𝘀. Thank you, Sunny. Thank you, 𝗟𝘂𝗯𝘀𝗰𝗿. Okay, keep it rolling for this. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Mangesh. Thank you, 𝗲𝗠ling. Thank you, Lucy. All right, so we have 8. I think, let me just take a quick check. Thank you, happy holiday. We have about 21 now, so we have 10 registered. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, Josephine. Okay, so a few more coming, joining us. So for those of you who just joined us, please go to the chat box, click on the link which I've copied and pasted. Thank you, Chris. Go to that, use your device to do that, and the device will prompt you for a code, so which appears on my screen, or I can read it to you, 462643. So we have 12 participants in this room, and we're expecting 21. But nonetheless, so maybe another 10-20 seconds before we start this. All right, so the questions related to team, so kindly respond from your device. Sunny, doing well. Okay, Jill and Johnny, you can actually look at your questions. So 𝗟𝗂𝗯𝘀𝗰𝗿 is done, Aventis webinar is done, 𝗟𝗂𝗯𝘀𝗰𝗿 is done. Okay, just maybe a minute or so rest. So Sunny, you're right on top. Yep. So we have a few more. Thank you, Chris. Chris is done. So as Mangesh and 𝗟𝗂𝗯𝘀𝗰𝗿, Agnes is done. Okay, AT done. Thank you, Lucy. Okay, so looks like so I'm not sure, Sunny, your lead is unassailable. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're going to end this in about 10-20 seconds time. Okay, so thank you so much for the time that you've kind of put in. This is a little bit of activities to have just some fun. This is an icebreaker, so it's not a test. So folks, thank you so much for your time that you kind of put in. So that will give us a kind of a warm up. But again, this is, remember, the purpose of the training webinars for today is a preview. It consists of 2 portions. The first portion is to share with you some tools for us to look at. And this is the tools that today we're going to be sharing 2 sets of tools. How to do the team alignment, how to align the team together. And the second tool is actually how do you select team appropriately. So this is a set of tools. The other main purpose also to share with all of you who participated today and about our approach and methodology in terms of moving training. And for those of you who are not speaking or asking questions, if you could kindly mute yourself, that would be fantastic. So we need your help to do that. Thank you so much. So there's a couple of tools today. Okay, cool. Let's start with this. I'm going to start with this a question. In your organization, how's your level of teamwork? Is it good? So let me see your response in the chat box. So if you think your teamwork is good, could you please type 1? If you're not so sure or you think it's not good, please type 2, the teamwork within your organization. So good teamwork, type 1. Not so good, type 2. Thank you for your response. Okay, so we have 1.5. So we have a mixture of 1s and 2s, closely balanced. Okay, closely balanced. And so 1 and 2. So maybe we'll just get you to take the response as well. If I may just get you can type in the chat box, or you can verbally say that. Chat box is actually better, so that so many of you have the time to respond, right, to breathe. So if you think that it's whether it's good or it's actually not good, if it is good, why do you think it's good? If it's not good, why not? So what I'll do is that we'll kind of split you into breakout rooms. So, and the discussion in the breakout room is that to answer the question on my screen, why do you think the teamwork is good? Or why don't you think the teamwork is good? So it's either, why and why not. And so it's just a quick 5 minutes maximum. I'm just going to put you into the breakout rooms. So when you see your names, you could, like, give me a second. So I'm going to split this into 4 quick breakout rooms. So when you see your name, if you could just click join, that'll be great. So you can have a sense of what we plan to do in the real training itself. That's the approach that we have. So could you all kindly click joining your room respectively, and you can discuss among yourselves. And the question of discussion is why good? Okay, on the screen now. Why not good? For those who think right in the context of teamwork. Okay, so I'm going to put a time check, about 5 minutes. So we come back at 11:17. So now it's 11:12. Quick 5 minutes discussion. Our idea of this is that is the teamwork good or not good? Again, the actual training will actually anticipate some responses. So let's move on then. Today, a couple of ideas. The first one is actually align. So how do I align my team so that, all would move in a very clear direction? There's no confusions and so on, either physical or even more so remotely or virtually. So I suppose the first tool that we're going to be sharing is this concept called team alignment. And to do that, let me just talk about the hot dog case. Now, I'll just explain this verbally as far as the hot dog case is actually concerned. So we work in the, say, fast food restaurants, right? And the customer was careless, not the fault of our staff, our team members. So the customer was so careless, he or she dropped the hot dog or the burger, smashed up, couldn't eat anymore. So my question is this: due to customers' own carelessness, do we replace the hot dog free of charge? Remember, our staff did not make any mistake. Our team members did not make any mistake. So for those who say that, hey, we should replace that burger free of charge, please type 1, or you can type yes, like Journey, and some will say yes. So free of charge, please type 1. No free of charge, please type 2. So a lot of you are so customer friendly, right? So Benny and Agnes and so on. Okay, cool. And so almost unanimous. I don't see any 2. So, and if there's anybody in your team members, anyone in your team member who refuse to replace the burger free of charge, is that his fault? So this is the second question now. Yeah. If you have a team member who refuses to replace the burger or hot dog free of charge, this is our staff, yeah, is that his or her fault? So if you think that his or her fault, please type 1. If you say no, please type 2. It's his fault, type 1. Okay, type 2 is not his fault. Fantastic. So you can see a divergent answer, right? The first set of answer is unanimously, almost all of you say, yeah, we should replace free of charge. But our staff, not their fault if they refuse to provide free of charge. So what could account for the divergent answers? Two different sets of answers. So this is the beginning of our journey when we talk about team alignment. How do you align the team together, whether physically or virtually? The clarity of communication is paramount. So how do we do it appropriately? So this particular example is a simplistic version of what we plan to do. So for instance, there are two options. You are the leader. If you are the team leader or team manager, right? You basically have got two options. How are you going to communicate with your team? So you see at the bottom of my screen, if your communication theme is we want to be the best customer service store, then it's absolutely very clear. So your staff would probably respond or behave in a certain way. However, if your communication approach or the theme to your team members, to your staff members, is this maximizing shareholders' return, then they would actually respond differently. So this has got nothing to do with the team member. So our topic is about managing team, right? So the responsibility would actually lie with the team leader or the team manager to ensure that it is absolutely very, very clear in terms of this. So in other words, whether you manage a team physically or virtually, this technique, we call this team alignment. How do you align them so that you can actually speak the same language, right, so to speak. So that's the simplistic example. And I want to show you another quick example. This is from the real company. And this is from the the vision portion. So they aim to be an international boutique, serving people from all walks of life. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you read this, I think if I would ask you, if you're the manager for this company, and if I ask you, your senior manager, your bosses, and your subordinates, how to explain this in a way that's easily understood, easily clarified with all the team members, I would have to assume that you probably have a different answers. So to do that, let me just ask you, ladies and gentlemen, could you please change the word international? Sorry, not change it. Look at the word international. What does the word international mean? Could you please type in the chat box, please? So if this is a company direction, the senior team members or managers directions, how are you going to just do it so that your team members all can understand this very clearly? So what does the word international mean? So global, okay. Thank you, Karen. Global, worldwide, okay. So there could be so many different interpretations, right? So thank you, Benny. Beyond boundaries, thank you, Mangesh. Thank you, Samantha. Global, worldwide. Now, if your staff is actually looking at this and say global, does that mean every single country? Beyond boundaries is every single country, everyone. Huiling, thank you, every single one. Well, so the explanation of this is very important. Your answers are okay as long as it's consistently shared. Personally, ladies and gentlemen, for the team alignment, I prefer translating subjective words into quantifiable format. So quantifiable, you could have some kind of a numerical things, right? So that everybody could easily understand there's no subjectivity, there's no misinterpretation. So a simple example would be something like this. So ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, combining the vision international and all walks of life, right? Maximum 10% local revenue, 90% will be or more be international business. So which country? All walks of life. This particular example is from an actual company. So I was doing some consulting work with them, helping them to do the team alignment. So that's what we did. So we discussed with them. Eventually, they settled with this. Now, my point is this. There's no right or wrong. Yeah? If you are a manager, somewhere in between, mid-management, and your team members looking at this maximum 10% local revenue and only going to countries with a minimum per capita income of per capita GDP of 15,000 US dollars. So The point with this sort of quantified version of team alignment, you'll be quite clear to all the team members what they should do, what they should behave. So with this, we would be able to avoid cases like, the hot dog example that we did earlier. Should we replace free of charge and not, and so on and so forth. So this is just one example of alignment, and we're going to be doing some workshop very briefly. Yeah? So this is at a stage of what we call alignment. So I do hope that when you go back to your respective organizations, in future, whether you attend my training or not, but when you go back, you don't have to attend training, you can actually start this as one of the tools. So quantify these subjective words. The first one is alignment. So let's take this a little bit further. So again, I'm not sure, your industries, I don't know you very well. I just can see your names. And so we look at two departments or units which are in regular conflict. Are we able to put them in a path where, like a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, right? They live happily ever after. So a couple of examples. So how are you going to align these two together, finance department and IT, so that they live happily ever after? So that's one example of alignment. So in my workshop, I'll be guiding you, the actual training itself, how to do this. But how to do this broadly is no different from this portion which I've shown you earlier. Quantify the expectations, having some kind of a numerical thing so that people can actually focus, zooming in on what to do and what to achieve and how to behave in order to achieve it. So you can, from there, you can actually have some of the guidelines, you can coach them, you can train them, whatever you need. So for finance and IT, you can put together and in the context of alignment. So obviously, if you are back to the organization, you may have other departments like sales versus operations. How do you kind of align them together so that they can live happily ever after? No more argument, no more debate. Everybody would have their own stuff properly aligned, and then there's less conflict. So this is not just intra-departmental. You can do this, as you can see on the screen here, interdepartmental as well. So financial societies and so on. So that is just one set of tools which we have given the preview. The trick is to quantify what you want both departments or the same departments to do. So everybody behave consistently in an aligned manner. So that's one portion. The other tool that I'd love to share with you later on is about how to select the best team member. Okay, that's the other tool coming up soon. But and we move on to the second tool. So again, hopefully you have some idea on what to do. The second tool is a team selection. So again, getting your participation. How many of you would actually select people that you don't quite like and to be in a team member? So if you would select people that you don't like to be included in your team, if you would do that, please type 1. And for those of you, if you don't select people that you don't like to be included in your team, please type 2. That's understandable. Okay, so yeah, they have a mix of two, thank you. Yeah, it's a good mix. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Benny, and others as well. If you don't like the person, you probably won't choose that person. Okay, so that's the 2, yeah. Select people based on their strength. 80, you're right. So 80 is very rational. So absolutely. Obviously, if you type 2, I can understand. If you can't even get along well, right? How are you going to select this person? But I think 80 answers it perfect. So it's absolutely right. So based on their contributions. So today we're going to be sharing with you this second set of tool is based on team roles. And it's taken actually out of 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 19 roles. So I'm just going to quickly go in to explain that a little bit, and then to see, again, some sense of what we plan to do. Now, first clarifications. You don't need 9 persons to form the team. It can be more, it can be less, but it would be ideal if within your team, all the 9 team roles can be exhibited. So if you have complete understanding of those 9 team roles. So I'm going to go through that. I'll just run through very briefly, all right, each and every one of the role, so that we can have a sense of what's composition of our team would look like. So 9 team roles. Okay. So some of the words you are going to see, remember these are from professors and psychologists and so on. So some of the, but there's some explanation for that. So the first row, ladies and gentlemen, you can see on top of my screen here is PL or plant. So you would not deny that we all need someone who could play that role in our team or organizations. Someone who is very creative, lots of idea. Second role, RI, very extroverted, good at making outside contacts and so on. So this person may not be creative like the first one, but he or she would be able to connect to people who could be having some ideas. So this is the RI. The third one is highly analytical. Okay, highly analytical, very shrewd, very careful kind of a person. So you can see that in your organizations, if you do not have ME, monitor evaluator, you probably could take risks, more risks that you could afford. You could even have spent a lot of time and effort doing something, but now that thing is actually wasted, okay, because of lack of analytical, composition in your team. But this person, if it is inside your meeting will probably last longer than necessary, because when everybody wants to finish and go home, and this person will say, no, not yet, I haven't finished presenting all my analysis yet. So that's ME. If you don't like ME, you probably don't like shaper, because this person will challenge you all the time. If you present something, this person will disagree with you, will ask you difficult questions, such as, are you sure? Where do you get this information from? Do you have proof? And so on and so on and so forth. So this is a shaper. But ladies and gentlemen, as you know, inside any organization, if we don't have shaper, we probably end up with a lot of yes men or yes lady. So whatever the boss say, disagree inside, but you say yes. Only then we complain in the toilet area or the cooler area, right? Okay, number 5, coordinator, someone who's actually very mature emotionally. He or she knows how to actually handle talents, how to use talent effectively. Implementer, number 6, okay, very implemented in a sense that if you ask this person to do something, you can basically go home and sleep. Very trustworthy, task-oriented, he or she would just complete it. CF, highly detailed, digging in a lot of questions, very meticulous, asking you a ton of questions. So you might not be very happy with this person, but it's necessary. Okay. Number 8, self-explanatory, someone who's actually very friendly, doesn't want World War III. So that's role. And the last one is, I think all of you will probably agree as well. All team members, all teams, in fact, we need to have someone who is technically competent in doing something. Otherwise, the problem would not get solved, right, from the technical perspective. So these are the 9 roles. And in the context of managing team, the question is that whether you do it physically or virtually, right? How do you do that? So you can pick any issue, for example, and you can actually explain this. So for example, if you are going to manage a team virtually, and if you need a team members who is actually very, very, very creative, then you need to pick someone who has the ability to do number 1. Okay, very creative person. How do you know whether someone is creative or not? Ladies and gentlemen, you might think that this is subjective. So I would love to hear from you if you manage to key in the chat box, right? The question is this: how do we know someone is creative or not? Very subjective, because you look at their faces, you can't tell. Now, maybe I'll just lead into this. I will just key in something. So someone who can actually provide lots of ideas. So how many of you agree that someone who provides lots of ideas, that person is creative? Could you please type 1? Joanne mentioned they do things differently. Okay, so if you agree with Joanne or agree with me providing lots of ideas, please type 1 in the chat box. Thank you, Joanne, for your contribution. So for those who think that you should, someone who gives lots of ideas, they do things differently, please type 1. Okay, very, very good. So you got lots of answers from here, right? So Josephine and so on. So wonderful. All right, and Lucy, Agnes, I see Moon, thank you, thank you. Actually, the answer is actually very interesting. I'm going to take a different spin, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm just keying something. My suggestion, when you pick someone that you think is very creative, try to pick someone who is able to solve problems in a new way, solving problems, focusing on the solutions. If you don't believe what I say, imagine you go back to the company mentally. Have you seen people who give lots of ideas, a ton of idea, but he or she just could not solve it? So he's just someone who can actually say things, but not be able to. So we appreciate someone who give ideas, so we don't discourage that. But I would still like to focus on solutions and not ideas. What goods can we come up with as far as that idea is concerned? So my suggestion is next time you just go back to your organization, right? I just key in something. You look at the department. If someone says he or she is very creative, you look at the things that I just keyed in the chat box, repeat problems or repeat issues. If someone has a lot of repeat problems or repeat issues in his or her own department, you cannot seriously say that that person is creative, thinking out of the box, right? So this is my suggestion, a very simple tool to actually help you. And it's just one, PL, plant. So you can pick any issues, you can pick the team members so that you can actually make a good decision in managing team virtually. So that's just one, okay? So I would actually focus on, I would be picking someone, team members, right? Under his or her work, I don't see a lot of repeat issues. So this is the person I would actually pick for someone who's actually very creative. So very much bottom line. And so just expand this a little bit. I'm just keying something on the chat box, right? So my favorite question. So which country do you think is more creative, Japan or USA? So I just type something in the chat box. Okay, so if you think Japan, please type 1. If your answer is America, please type 2. Which country is more creative? Japan is 1, USA is 2. So I hope there's no Japanese or American in this webinar, right? Thank you. Equally creative, 80, politically correct answer, 80. Karen, 2. So we have a mixture of 1 and 2. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm just keen, for those of you who pick Japan, okay, so I just keyed something in the chat box. So if you pick Japan, the question to you is this: could you name any new companies? Because our topic is creative, right? Any new companies from Japan, but the criteria is it has got to be born after 1980, 1980. Okay, so for those of you who are supporters of Japan, give me the names of new companies born after 1980. I can only think of one, SoftBank. But if you key in Uniqlo, the answer is wrong. Nintendo, the answer is wrong. They were born way before 1980. So of course, the Sonys, the Panasonics, the Toyotas, and so on, the Sumitomo. Now, be careful, or be respectful. Our question is not about which country is smarter or more intelligent or more stupid. That's not the question. The question is creative. So when you manage team members, ladies and gentlemen, depending on what are the things that you look at, if you are looking at the word creativity, do you find someone who can actually use new ideas to solve problems, come up with something fruitful? That is a bottom line question. right? So of course, Japanese are not stupid, Americans are not stupid, you know. But if you're talking about what creativity, any new companies to show? Not many. So this is a bottom line question that I will really encourage you, particularly when you manage team virtually. You do not have to monitor them. You don't have to track their time. So my suggestion is for managers or leaders, please don't manage behaviors or time or activity, manage the results. They can, you know, work from home, they can sleep for all you care. You can sleep as much as you want if you're reporting to me. As long as at the end of the day, you got the results, I'm good. So this is how we actually manage that. I'm just picking one example for this thing plan. Okay, so there are many others as well. Okay, in the context of when you attend the full program, we'll be actually running through all the ideas and how are we gonna just manage all these things in that particular context. Okay, so, and again, if you have any questions, you're free to ask. So, and then that's just one question. And then of course, the final bit, right, to assist you in managing this. One more case that we look at before we take in any question from you. Now, again, we're just sticking on the first row, yeah, team row, PL, plant. Now on my screen, promotion, right? Those who say that in order to increase creativity improvement, right? To increase creativity, should we hire people from outside? So, and then what I'll do is I'll just key in, yeah. 2 is internal promotion. So on my screen here, you can actually see if you want to increase creativity in your team, should you take in someone internally or take in someone from outside? From outside, please key 1 in the chat box. If you're talking about internal promotion, in order to enhance creativity, please type 2 in the chat box. Okay, so if you want to improve creativity within the company, take someone from outside. Thank you, Josephine. Thank you, Hui-Ling. Subjective, 80, okay. So, thank you, Mangesh. Right. So that is the thing that we discussed. Should we take into subjective? Yeah, it actually depends on the data. So when we look at this, and I'm going to just go quickly to my whiteboard, and I'm going to show you how you can actually do this. Yeah. So I would actually do this. Excuse me, I just use my hand. So I would actually put RP here, not RIP. Yeah? RP is repeat problems. How many repeat problems? And once you look at the data that we have, so this is external, this is internal. Excuse my handwriting. Let's touch screen and do this. So if you have this sort of data, ladies and gentlemen, you can form a conclusion now. External versus internal. So I hope that by this kind of a quick sharing, you will be able to become a better team leader, a better team managers, because you will be managing team rationally, 0 emotion based, without any emotion, 100% rational. So in this case, 80 answer is correct, subjective, but now we're actually converting something subjective into objective. So if this is your data, you should not take in people from outside, because your track record is actually telling you, taking people from outside, they continue to end up with more repeat problems than our internal stuff, if this is your data. So there you go, making decisions on that. So team management is not that complicated. So from here, ladies and gentlemen, you can see that our discussion so far, yeah? First, team alignment, how to do that? Don't use feelings and emotion. Secondly, team selection. How do you assign tasks basing on the individual strengths and so on? Again, there's no emotion. So this is how we actually manage the team.
Hi everyone, thank you for tuning into this webinar. We know for sure this skill will go a long way, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more webinar replays. See you again. Bye.